Hi everyone, this is Sumit. Welcome to my channel What the Flow. In the last video, what I showed is how to create a simple bot using Google DialogFlow. In this video, what I'll show is how to use webhooks and invoke webhooks in DialogFlow. So before I start, there are some prerequisites for this demo. So one of them is to install the Node.js CLI. So if you search with Node.js CLI in Google, so it will give you this URL wherein you can download the corresponding source code onto the local machine. So for this demo, I've already installed Node.js based on the Windows version that I'm using. So the next step is to install the Firebase tools. So how to do that? So there is a command which says npm install -g firebase-tools. So if you invoke that command in node.js CLI, so it will install Firebase tools, and then you can connect to Google Firebase console. So the uh, third step is to download Visual Studio Code. I've already installed Visual Studio Code. So what I'll do is just open Visual Studio Code, and then I've already navigated to this particular folder which I've created. So it's basically a blank folder that is created which says demo dialog flow. So if you see here on the top, there is a tab which says terminal. So let me just click on new terminal. And then what I can do is invoke and log in into the Firebase console. So the command for that is firebase login. So if you see here, it is saying that it's already logged in as whattheflow02@gmail.com. So the next step is to invoke and invoke a command which says that firebase init. What it does is it creates a function folder within this demo dialog flow folder. So function is something that will deploy on the Firebase console so that we can invoke that in our dialog flow intent. So once you submit that Firebase init command, so what it is asking you to do is provide some details. So I'll just say yes. And then there are various options like database, deploy Firebase, real-time database rules, Firestone, deploy rules, and then functions, configure and deploy cloud functions. So for the sake of this video, since we are deploying the functions, so what I'll do is go to the function. So you can use your up and down word arrow keys on your keyboard. And then to select that, you need to press space and then press enter. And then now it is asking you whether you need to deploy a function for an existing project, create a new project, add Firebase to an existing GCP project, or don't set up a default project. So since we have already created a project, a demo dialog flow yesterday, so I'll just select use an existing project. And then if you see here, so I have already created this particular project. So what I'll do is select this one, and then it asks you in which language you would like to write cloud functions. So I'll say JavaScript because Node.js is JavaScript. So I'll just select JavaScript, and then I'll select Y. Yep. So now it's installing all the files. Okay, so in the functions folder, you can see there are various files that are installed now, which are like index.js, package.lock.json, package.json, and then firebase erc, all those files. So index.js is the file that we'll be using to create our webhook, and then we'll be providing some inputs on this index.js file. So what we'll do is we'll install some dependencies that we want to use. So one of the dependency is actions on Google. So what I'll do is type the command npm install. So yeah, so one of the main point here is that you need to install all the dependencies and all the modules on the functions in the functions folder. So right now I'm not in the functions folder, so the path says desktop demo dialog flow. So what I'll do is change my path to functions, and then what I'll do is invoke this command npm install actions on Google. Now it will install the dependency, and then it will show in the package.json file. Yeah. So if you go in the package.json file, so whatever module that you install in your functions, so it will automatically be shown in the dependencies in the package.json. So what I'll do in the index.json is remove those comments field, and will instantiate something called as DialogFlow. And what we'll do is call this module actions on Google, and then we'll instantiate this action by saying const app equals to DialogFlow, then debug. Okay. So what I'll do is just jump onto the Google Dialogflow. So there are a couple of things that I just want to show you. So right now we have a couple of intents in our agent demo dialog flow, a default fallback intent and default welcome intent. So if I click on default welcome intent, it's showing whatever training phrases that we have and whatever responses that we have. So since we'll be using a webhook, and then webhook will give the response back to Google Dialogflow. So I'll remove all those text responses. So I'll just click on delete. And then if you scroll to the bottom, you see fulfillment tab. So let me just enable webhook call for this intent, and then click save. So if you click on save, and then if you go to fulfillment tab, so you can enable the webhook, and then what it will ask is the URL. So right now let me just delete that URL for now, and then what we'll do is we'll go to Visual Studio Code, and then there is something called as intent function. Okay, so let me just change that to lowercase. and here as well. Okay, so what I'll do is use a function called as app.intent, and then so you can see there are a couple of intents, default ones, default welcome intent and default fallback intent. So since we'll be providing the response to default welcome intent, so we'll select this one and then we'll provide a response. We'll use this function dot ask to provide the static response. So I'll just provide a static response. This is the test version of Phoenix. How can I help? Okay. So in case we want to execute this index.js file, so what we need to do is export that, and then DialogFlow fulfillment equals to functions, and then dot https because we'll be making https call to the webhook, and then on request. What it means is that as soon as this webhook URL that we are trying to deploy is invoked, it will provide this response when this intent is matched. So let me just navigate to the functions folder because you want to deploy the functions or the Node.js files from the functions folder itself. So in case you don't deploy from the functions folder, so Google Firebase will provide an error like this one. So DialogFlow is not a function. So the command to deploy to the Firebase console is firebase deploy. So it will take some time. Let me just save that once. Try to deploy again. Yeah, I think it's working this time. So since I didn't save it, so it was deploying the older version and it was throwing some error. Okay. All right. So the function URL is now displayed. So what I'll do is just copy that function URL. And then, so since I've copied the URL from Visual Studio, so what I'll do is go to the fulfillment tab and then copy this URL. Okay. Just click open, then copy this URL. And then what I'll do is just save. Okay. So now it's saved. And then what we can do is go to Firebase console just to see whether our function is deployed or not. So if you see, there is one project demo DialogFlow. So if I just click here and then under the functions, what I'll do is just check my function is deployed successfully or not. So yes, it says successfully deployed. So what we'll do is we'll test our webhook now. We'll go to integrations, integration settings, and then test. Okay, so the simulator is now up and running. What I'll do is just say talk to test Phoenix.
Getting the test version of test Phoenix.
This is the test version of Phoenix. How can I help?
Let's see, hi.
This is the test version of Phoenix. How can I help?
So in case you have noticed is that I typed hi and then it gave me the response. This is the test version of Phoenix. How can I help? So this is exactly the same response that we provided in this function have.intent. Once this intent is matched, so we'll be providing the static response. So now we know that webhook call is kind of working, and then the function that we deployed is successfully running. So let me just go to the Firebase console and see the logs once, so you can check the log for debugging purpose as well. Yeah, so here you can see that the log was successfully completed, or the function execution was successfully completed. Hope you guys liked my video. So in case you liked it, please click on the like button and then subscribe to my channel. So in the next tutorial, what I'll show is how to invoke third-party REST API, which will be using basic authentication as well as OAuth. Thank you.